That's fantastic.
Again, no, it was about 15 euros.
I'm not quite sure where we're going to put it yet, mind you. Little Dodge has redeemed itself after its slight faux pas when we tried to go to Hopley House. Welcome back to Old Classic Car now. As you may remember if you watched the video from a week or two back, we did have a bit of a failure to proceed moment with Little Dodge, the 1947 Dodge WC half-ton pickup, which arrived at the end of last year, 2022. We were all set to take it to the Hopley House farm shop meeting, and on the morning itself it refused to start. It would not start for love nor money, which was all quite frustrating. So the Super Sub, we got standard 8 1956, we actually gave that one a quick wash down, chucked a bucket of water over it, and we took that instead. So we were able to get there, but it was frustrating not to be able to take this one. Now the situation is now with this, so a couple of weeks later, give or take, it does actually run, but I'm not entirely sure why it runs. It's a little bit of an odd one. Just to give you a bit of an update, it would not start, it would not cough, it would not splutter. And at the end of the last video that I did when we went to Hopley House, I did actually take the carburettor apart and just blew it through just to see if there's any problems with the main jet. Now there may have been a bit of a blockage in the main jet, but it still would not fire. It just didn't want to know. It was just so frustrating. So what I did in the end is, it's on 6 volt, it's on the original 6 volt electrics. So I got a second battery and hooked that up. I got the jump leads out and I ran a second 6 volt battery over it, so that there's a very noisy plane flying over somewhere. Just up in the murk up there. It's a bit of a grey old day today. But yeah, I got a second battery and I jumped it over just to give it a bit of extra chance to start, and I thought, it just didn't want to know at all. So I just thought, I'm just going to persist with this, and kept going, and the engine was turning over, and then suddenly the engine changed note. It didn't start straight away, but the note of the engine, the sound that it was making, changed slightly, and then it started to cough on 1 or 2 cylinders, and eventually it caught on about 2, maybe 3 cylinders, and it ran. And then the others kicked in after just a few seconds. They sort of cleared their lungs a little bit, and it started up. And ever since then, I've run it several times. I've had it, driven it around and everything, and it's been okay. So I can only think that my initial thought of maybe a blocked main jet may not have been too far from the truth, because obviously I cleaned the jet out and it didn't make any difference. But I'm just wondering if somewhere further within the innards of the carburettor, I just wonder if maybe there was a blockage in there, and the persisting with trying to get it to go and spinning the engine over, and the compression and the suction that creates, I just wonder if it did clear its little passage somewhere, and it did enable it to fire up. And ever since then it's been okay, and I've just run it now just to try it out, because tomorrow it is the Crewe Heritage Classic Car morning meeting. You'll have seen videos about that before if you've been on the channel for any length of time. We went there a few weeks ago. We took the Renault 4CV, which is hiding away down here. So we took that, and Dad took his MGB, and her indoors, Mrs. OCC, she took the MX5, so she'll probably take that again tomorrow. And Harley and I are going to go in this, so we've got a few spare parts, a jack and so on, tucked away in the back here. In fact, we can have a quick look. If I just move this big jerry can out of the way. I've been putting together a bit of a period toolkit, so I've got a reproduction workshop manual, because I wouldn't want to get a nice original one grubby, but a repro copy, doesn't matter if that gets a bit grubby. Got a couple of bonnet props there, which do the job admirably. A few bits of blocks of wood and so on. There's that old fan belt that I took off, which I'll do as a spare. I've got a nice old foot pump in there, a Dunlop Junior. And a great old Ernest Lake bottle jack, a 4-ton bottle jack. I did actually use that the other day because I just wanted to jack it up and just check the brakes. So that's a really good jack, and it's mechanical, it's not hydraulic, so there's no risk of it dropping down or anything like that. So a proper big heavy jack like that is just perfect to sit in the back of Little Dodge. So fingers crossed we're going to have this out and about tomorrow over at the Crewe Heritage Centre. Another change is the addition of that little badge there. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Big Dodge has got one badge on it, one Motoring Association badge, and that is an RAC Motorsport member badge. I I found this many years ago and I thought that's just perfect to go on the front of this old race car transporter. And now little Dodge is equally blessed with a period badge, or rather it's a badge that affixes to the top of the old license plate or license tag. And this is the original California plate, and these are designed, it screws on there, so you fit that on there, and the other end it just hooks over the top of the old metal license plate. I think this is North Carolina State National AA Auto Association, so it's like an American breakdown recovery organisation as far as I can tell, but I thought that looks just perfect, especially the blue is almost the same blue in the lettering there as the scruffy old paint on the little pickup truck itself, so I thought that just looked fantastic, and it came from the same home that the truck itself came from, so it seemed highly appropriate to fit it onto here. It looks just, it must be 1940s as well, so I think that just looks fantastic. We don't want anything looking too new on here because the rest of it certainly doesn't look new. Made in USA. Yeah, so the objective tomorrow is to wheel this out. We'll try and get over there about 8:30, something like that. Take it over and hopefully have an enjoyable morning out in this one, which was our plan for Hopley House a few weekends ago. That one didn't go to plan, but fingers crossed we'll have a bit more luck tomorrow. I had it running about 5 minutes ago. Like I say, it's all on the original 6 volts, which lives down there under the driver's feet, so that's all fully charged up, that's good to go. So fingers crossed we should be over there in it tomorrow. That's the hope. I'm not quite sure what the weather's doing. We've had a fair bit of snow recently and it's just starting to rain. I can just hear a bit of rain. You can see a bit of rain just on this old shell sign here. But the weather did threaten a bit of rain or sleety snow this afternoon, and then it should be clearing up overnight, and tomorrow the weather is hopefully looking quite agreeable. So the roads are a little bit mucky, but you know, this is a big sturdy old truck, you know, they're made of proper metal, so you know, even if it rains a little bit tomorrow it won't come to any harm. But yeah, that's the plan of action. I just need to check the MX5 over, which is under there at the moment. But yeah, Harley and I are going to go in this, and fingers crossed it'll play ball. We shall see. You can never have too many old oil cans. I've been going through some of the old oil cans here because I thought, well, may as well see which ones actually work and which ones don't. This is quite a nice one actually. I haven't tried this one, but this has got the crow's foot on the side. You can just about see hopefully there, and that denotes it being military. This was originally used by the military in the Second World War, whether it was Army or RAF, I'm not quite sure. And it does say the maker's name, I think, on there. Can't quite make it up. It's a K, so it's one of these Ks of Leeds. So it'll be from the same manufacturer as that one, but obviously a bit simpler on this one because it's only to war economy standards, or spec if you like, so they didn't need anything flashy. So yeah, I might see if that one will work actually. But yeah, all these oil cans work, so that's quite nice. So there's all different oil cans, different spouts and so on, so it makes them a, you know, different access, because sometimes you might find that this one works 90% of the time, but sometimes if you've got like a longer fiddlier job to do and thing to oil, then you need one with a longer thingy on it, so that's all good. And I found this one hanging up which I'd forgotten all about, which is quite an unusual shape. Oh, it's starting to rain now. Yeah, that's quite an unusual shape. This possibly was used for lubricating, I don't know, quite a big lorry engine, or maybe even an aero engine where accessibility was sometimes not always that great. But it's just quite an unusual thing. A bit of old paint lift on there. We like a bit of old original paint. There's the little plucky standard. Like I said, this one stood in for us at the Hopley House meet a few weekends ago when the other one, the Dodge, wouldn't run. And this one started right up. But there are a few jobs that we need to do to this. Overall, it seems to be pretty solid, so I'm not going to worry too much. I don't want to get too bogged down with that. The Anglia, we had that out recently. I think that appeared in one of the videos just a week or two back. One thing I found recently for the A40, because I've not forgotten about this, I really do want to crack on with this when the weather's a little bit warmer and I've got a few little jobs done on the other stuff. I did find another rear seat squab. The seat itself is up there, and the seat material itself isn't actually too bad. But unfortunately, while this was stored outside, a mouse made a nest under here, under the rear seat squab, and that got damp and it rotted out all the structure of the seat underneath the covering, which is, like I say, this is okay. All the structure is just completely disintegrated. So what I've found is another seat squab for a Mk1 Austin A40. So I think the aim will be to swap this seat covering, which isn't too bad. It doesn't look great, but it's not too bad. So we'll swap that over onto the other seat, and then that way we'll have a good squab which can go back in there. So I've got most of the parts now that I think this needs. I think if we do go to some auto jumbles, I will draw up a short list of bits and pieces I want to find for this. We did actually go to an auto jumble, a new one that was advertised down the A41. We went over to that, but there was hardly anyone there, and there's mainly bike bits that was there. There's only one or two stall holders there. I don't think the word had really got out about this new event, and the weather was putting people off as well, I think, so that was a bit of a shame. But I think one of the targets for this year is to sort of hunt down and see what other bits and pieces we can find for this. I mean, I had new old stock rear wings, which I've cut out some repair sections for to go on here. I've got new old stock sills to go on there, and I've got new old stock front wings, which need a bit of a clean up, but they're proper BMC wings, which took me about 30 years to find. So, like I said, this has been in the family from new. So lots of other cars have come and gone over the years, but this has always been with me. This was the car I passed my test in 1987, towards the end of 1987. And I used this to drive to school in the sixth form. Used to be able to park. Well, I used to park in the teacher's car park, and there'd often be notes go up on the chalkboard inside the sixth form common room saying, "Will the owner of 820 FTT please move his car?" Because they didn't want students parking there. These insolent students, but I didn't like the idea of parking on the road outside, so I thought, there's a space in the teacher's car park, and it's a classic Austin, so it doesn't want to be parked out on the road, so it often used to end up in the teacher's car park. Occasionally I did move it, but next day it would just reappear back in there again. If you've got any new old stock parts that would suit a Mk1 A40 Farina that you don't need anymore, and they're just taking up space in your shed, your cave, your garage, whatever, if you've got anything that suit one of these, I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm looking for. I think I've got a new old stock front bumper. I'm not sure about the back bumper. I might have to have the original one re-chromed, which probably isn't the end of the world. I wouldn't mind a better boot lid. The original boot lid has rotted out along the bottom, and I did get somewhere. There is another boot lid. Let's just have a quick look down the side here. There is another boot lid which I bought off the internet a couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, something like that, which is better than the original one. There's the original A40 boot lid, but it's pretty manky along the bottom edge, and I mean ideally I'd like to have that repaired or repair it, but as the fallback I bought this because it wasn't too expensive, but it's not quite the right boot lid. It'll fit the same hole, it'll go in there okay, but the inner pressings are slightly different on the Mark II compared to the Mark 1. So if I could find a really good Mark 1 boot lid, that would make me very happy indeed. So if you can help out on that particular search, that's about the last thing I'd probably like to find if I can, but I'm not holding my breath because I can't imagine there are too many around, but it'd be nice to find one. Right, well, it's the following day and we are here at Crewe Heritage once again. Last month it was the 4CV. This time we're in Little Dodge. It made it here after the slight lapse in performance when we were trying to go to Hopley House a few weekends ago, and that's when the standard had to stand in at the last second. This one, it started up first thing this morning, ran sweet as a nut, drove over here, didn't miss a beep, so fingers crossed that running issue that I had hopefully will have disappeared. I can only think there was a bit of muck lodged somewhere, and just constantly churning it over on the starter helped pull through a bit of dirt somewhere. That's the only thing I can think of. Dad's here already, he beat me to it. I've got the tools in the back, got a couple of chairs, got a spare battery over there just in case there's a starting issue and I need a bit of extra battery oomph, a bit more cranking power should there be a problem, but touch metal, there won't be. The roads were a little bit grubby this morning, a bit wet, but fortunately we don't worry about this one being too clean. It's a working old truck, so we don't need to worry too much. I did wash this before we came out, but it's already filthy, but at least it was clean when we set off. But yeah, anyway, blue skies, sun's coming out, and the weather report is looking quite promising for this morning at any rate, so fingers crossed there'll be a good turnout of cars, and I believe there's going to be a contingent of Austin Maestro owners here, so celebrating the 40 years of the Maestro. I can't believe it feels like a 20-year-old car when I think of my Austin Maestro. But yeah, 40 years, that's quite a sobering thought. Don't remember those bonnet props. Dad's been reorganising the badges on the front of his MGB, and on the right hand side here, dated 1951, it's a later badge but dated of 1951, that's the Festival of Britain, and apparently my great uncle designed that logo, so I never realised that. But yeah, they're looking well. There's always a mixture of cars here at Crewe Heritage, some sporty, some sort of modern tuned up, but interestingly we have a lovely old Farina coming in, old Maurice Oxford. From the side you can always tell the Maurice Oxford from the Cambridge because the Oxford has got a trim along the top of the sill there. First of the Maestros today, an MG Maestro on a B plate. I read somewhere that there's going to be quite a gaggle of VWs here as well. I think there's a convoy taking place. Obviously we'll be focusing on the older cars here on the Old Classic Car channel, and what do we have here but a Rochdale? Wow, that's fantastic. A smooth 6-cylinder burble. The sports hatch just turned up, as did this 911 Targa. And what do we have here but an F-Reg Citroen DS and an Amy behind it? I'm beginning to think I should have brought the Renault. So that's the Ami 8, which is more of an estate car than the earlier Ami 6. The Ami 6 had the drastically rear-raked back window, a bit like the 105e Anglia. I've just got a few parking manoeuvres going on here. There's a sound very familiar to anyone used to 2CVs and Dianes, etc. Yeah, what a great pair they are. Yeah, it's lovely, that is. I love the stickers in the back window there. Yeah, great pair. What a great looking car that is. The French certainly build some wacky looking cars. Got an ST1 just arriving, that one was here last time I think. Yeah, I would love one of those. Wouldn't say no to one of these either, preferably one of the Safaris. That would be a great steer, that would, I think. Classic Beetle now. Well, the Maestros are accumulating. There's that MG we saw coming before, and a C Reg, and an F Reg. And of course, the lovely old ice cream vans that we've seen before. But yeah, I think they're expecting, I don't know, 7 or 8 Maestros here today to celebrate 40 years of Austin Rover's finest. Well, the sun is still with us, which is great news, and also great news, we've got a fantastic little two-door Morris Minor 1000 here. Well, that's on an F plate, so what's that, about late 67 or early 68? Can't be many people watching this video who doesn't have some experience of the Morris Minor, whether travelling in one or owning one or fixing one or crashing into one. Let me know in the comments what your memories of these fantastic little cars are. Here's that shiny 850R Volvo, rare sight, especially one that isn't faded. We've got a few more gems coming in now. There's a good turnout of BMC, BL, Austin Rover Group cars here today, including this Maxi 1750 HL.
Again, no, it's about 15 euros.
We've got a V8 XJ here. You can always tell this is the X308, which was based heavily on the X300, which came before. The X300 had a 6-cylinder, or the V12, but this is the V8, and you can tell that by the little corner chrome bumpers on the 6-cylinder cars. The bumper goes all the way across. That's the giveaway if you're staring at the front of one. The indicators are also a different shape. On the V8 cars, they've got their sort of lozenge-shaped curved ends, whereas on the 6-cylinder cars that came before, they're sort of squared off, a bit more rectangular. And next to it is this fantastic little Rochdale. There's a real variety of cars here today. V8 XJ, the Rochdale, Maurice Oxford that we saw driving in before. Yeah, I don't remember seeing this one before. Over here we've got a 6-cylinder BMW 7 Series. This is one of the E32 series cars. You can tell a 6-cylinder because they got the narrow front grille. I used to have a couple of V12 ones of these, a 750iL ex-motor show car and a 750i short wheelbase or standard wheelbase. This I think is a standard wheelbase car, 735i. Quite a handsome bit of kit, I think. There's all manner of old railway related items here at Crewe Heritage. Everywhere you look there's always something. It's always fun to get the 3 cars here. Dad certainly seems to be getting plenty of use out of this MGB GT, which is really cool. I was worried when he got rid of the Morris Minor that he might stop coming to some of these classic car shows, which would have been a real shame, but fortunately with this he's able to get to as many as he wants. This Granada's a super clean example. It's a 2.8 Ghia. You don't see many good ones of these now. Who remembers having their registration numbers acid etched onto their windows? That was like a security thing back in the 1980s. I well remember that. I think my A40's still got a set of the number plates marked on the glass. Well, let's go and see if there's anything else arrived while I've been up this end. Harley's busy here filming the Maxi and the Morris Minor and the Mark III Escort. And there he is, hard at work. We've got an RS 2000, a bright yellow Spitfire, so it was good to see that one out and about. An E39 BMW, there's that E32 7 Series, and a very fruity sounding 66 Mustang. Funny enough, we were only here yesterday for a toy fair. We haven't been to many toy fairs in a long time, but every now and again there is a toy fair held here at the Crewe Heritage Centre, so we potted down and did buy some cracking little toy cars, which may well appear in a future video, either on this channel or on Harley's Car Traction, all one word, channel, so keep an eye out for those if you like your toy cars. Well, let's wander down towards the entrance and just see if there's anything else turning up. There appears to be a Capri. You won't argue with him. Well, we've seen quite a few Maestros, and here is a Montego to join the party. It's the E34 5 Series coming in now on a G plate, so late 1980s. Here we have the rear-engined green Beetle, and coming in we have a rear-engined green Hillman Imp. Hooray, there's a pre-war car coming in. A lovely two-tone grey Riley 9 Monaco. And behind the Riley, a scooter. If you saw the video we put out last month, you'll remember this fantastic two-tone Austin or Nash Metropolitan.
Lovely old Metropolitan rolling in.
Right, we're back to the old Citron Amy again, and we've tracked down the owner of it, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about this fantastically quirky little car. So, you've had this not a great long time then? You've not had this?
No, I picked it up beginning of this year actually. It was very local to me.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm
Wow.
from kind of South Manchester,
Yeah.
and it was in Bollington in Cheshire,
Oh,
so
yeah, I know
I
Bollington,
thought it was a good price, and I thought, can't really resist. I've been into TCVs for a long time, and obviously this has a very similar platform. Yeah.
So has it been in the country a long time, do you think, or?
A few years, I believe. It was actually part of Jaguar Land Rover collection.
Oh, is it one of theirs that
In
they
one of
disposed
the-
of?
that's
didn't they?
it, that's
Yes,
it,
was that guy, it
it's-
was a named collection, I can't remember the guy's name. But
Yeah, I think the guy I bought it off got it from Silverstone auction, which was the kind of clearance of all this unwanted stuff that JLR has.
I remember reading about it.
And prior to that, it came from kind of the deep south around Carcassonne, so it's in.
Which is why it survived.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty solid underneath and stuff. So.
So what does it drive like?
Very much reminiscent of a 2CV, but if anything, it's a bit slower because it's. Yeah.
Is it heavier or something? Or?
It's heavier, and also the engine, despite being 602cc, is a kind of a different earlier type, which was known as the M4 engine, and the latest 2CVs have what's known as the M28 engine. So, so yeah, it's pretty sluggish, which is a bit odd because if anything, it looks like it should be a bit quicker than a 2CV.
It looks so much newer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's still got the gear change coming out the dashboard.
It does. It does. Yeah. It's all good fun.
And the DS, is that yours as well, or is that's yours? Is it? Oh right. So
similar story really. I've had that probably 2 years since 2021, and a similar thing. This was in Holmes Chapel, and a guy had taken it in part exchange for something.
Wow.
And I had a Boxster, but I really fancied that. So I phoned the guy up and said, "Do you want to swap?" And he said, "Yeah, okay, but I need some money my way." So I've got that. I mean, it's had quite a lot of last winter, predominantly on the hydraulic system. So new pressure regulator. The suspension works on spheres instead of springs and dampers. So it's had 4 of those.
Got you.
And the accumulator sphere. Similar story to the Ami actually, in that it's from the south of France, so it's from Biarritz. And I think it was brought over here in 2018.
So wasn't it the suspension that saved De Gaulle or something like that? Wasn't that the story or something? Wasn't it?
There's a story like that as well.
Escaped the crims.
Yeah, I mean it will drive on 3 wheels, and if you put it in high, you can get it to pick one of the rear wheels up.
And the wings, they just sort of they sort of one bolt, is it, or something? Is it like one bolt that holds them on or something like that, isn't it? Oh, there it is, right.
The wheel brace.
Yeah.
The wheel brace goes onto that.
Oh, right, so you whiz that off.
That just comes off, and the whole thing comes off.
Fantastic. I don't worry taking it off, but so that's just the one thing that holds the back wing on.
Yeah, and the front wings are fairly set. I'll show you because there's 2 little turrets effectively that it's into.
Wow.
And it's similar at the front. They've got 2 bolts, but it's got the same system more or less.
Is it right?
So yeah, I mean the.
So this was just a speed up access then for the rear wheel, just to get it off, right?
I don't know if you've ever seen how 2CV rear wing comes off, but that's a massive palaver. Whereas this, it's really simple.
Wow. That just exposes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So is it a bit like a Rover P6 then, where everything bolts on, sort of to the inner structure, sort of thing?
The panels are hang on basically. So
got you.
The front doors and the rear doors just have 2 turrets that screw into them,
right,
and hang them. The front wings have the same system as these with the turrets that hold them.
Oh, I see. So you locate on those and then...
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty bonkers, isn't it?
Simple to take apart.
But do you need to take it apart often? That's the question. Yeah.
Recently I have had to, yeah. I'm hoping not to now, having spent quite a few weeks working on it over the winter. Yeah. This is its first run out and I was a bit nervous, but it has been fine. So
that's great. No, it's great. Well, it's great to see the pair of them here because they're just so French, aren't they? You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny. You can see they made the Ami out of bits of DS and 2CV. So if you look at the door handles, they're carrying from this onto that. The rear reflectors are the same. The interior door handles.
I was looking at the shape of the reflectors before, actually. I love those. I just love the little details, you know.
The steering wheel and steering column, I think, to carry over. So it's a really interesting part from a platform.
Yeah, I love it.
Look at modern cars like Golfs and Tiguan's and things like that.
I'd rather not.
The same platform.
I'd rather not. Yeah.
But they were doing it in the 60s.
Yeah. So anyone who knows their 2CVs will know you can take the seats out quite easily, and apparently the seats in these Amy's come out fairly, so we've got a bit of a bracket down there. Oh, grief.
So it's 2 pegs and a clip.
Oh, wow. Think of everything, these Frenchmen, don't they? That's a cracking car, isn't it?
Great for picnics.
So is it alright underneath, all sort of structure and everything? Is it pretty good?
Yeah, it needs, it'll need a driver's floor pan eventually, but they're sat on a kind of chassis platform and that's all solid.
Is it?
Dealing with the earlier cars seem to survive better than the latest 2CVs.
One time, years ago, I had an Acadian, and it was all sign written with like a French plumber's business on it, and I really wish I kept that, because it just looks so good with the faded sign writing on it.
Yeah. Oh, you'll be used to the gear change and things then. If you
I'm sort of familiar. I never had it on the road, but it did drive, it did move, but no, I think that's the best pairing here today. I think that is.
Something different, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks very much for the walk around these two fantastic Citroens. I'm quite taken with this Maurice Oxford as well. I don't think I've seen this one here before. Well, that's a good straight old car, isn't it? So I'd have the 1622 B series engine in it. Many years ago I used to run a A55 Cambridge Mark II, which was the first of the sort of Farina designed Oxfords and Cambridges. It had the bigger fins for this era of Oxford and Cambridge, because you had the A60 Cambridge which sold alongside this, and had slightly smaller fins on the later cars like this, but on the earlier ones they sort of came up a little bit higher, but very similar under the skin. Yeah, what a great usable old car this is. Loads of room in it, leather seats. Yeah, it's really nice inside as well, isn't it? Such a clean car. That'll make a great daily driver, that would. Got the bonnet up on the Rochdale Olympic now. It's interesting to see just how far back and how low set that engine is. So that would really have helped the handling a lot. Obviously it's fiberglass bodied, so that's nice and light. You've got a punchy 4-cylinder engine in there. But yeah, it's lovely, that is. There's an interesting one just turned up, a left-hand drive ex-Spain Fiesta Mk1 S. Next to the also left-hand drive Amy 8. Silver cloud hiding away over here amongst some modern Vauxhalls, etc. There's quite a few classic motorcycles here as well. We've got a Honda 400 4-cylinder there, a Super Sport. There's that Vespa. There's a Z1000 Kawasaki. I'm sure people watching this video will know much more about old motorbikes than I do. And one of the later Royal Enfields. And a Honda.
A few more actually.
It's not a little frog eye sprite, just a little gem. What a beautiful little car that is. It's like being back in time in an Austin Rover Group garage circa 1984 or 83. We've got Maestros everywhere you look. We've got one running here, good heavens. There's the Montego we were looking at before. And there's another Maestro appeared at the end here.
Yeah, because weren't there a bit of a kind of...
Yeah, you ring it and I'll make...
And still they turn up. Apologies for the noise of something diesel running over there, but here we've got a lovely little Wolseley. A little Wolseley Hornet on an F plate, so late 67 or early 68. Beautiful two-tone green as well. This is one of the slightly later cars where the hinges are hidden away. The early ones were like the early Minis. The hinges on the outside and the slidey windows, of course, but this has got the luxury of wind-up windows. And of course, being a Hornet, and like the Riley Elf, it's got the little boot, so it's a Mini with a boot. Just makes it a little bit more practical again. Have we seen this one before? I'm not quite sure. Sometimes we see one that turns up, a grey one with a supercharger nestling under its bonnet. I'm not sure if I've seen this green one before, but it's a lovely colour. I really like the colour of that. And the illuminated Wolseley badge, of course. That would be glowing at night. Mrs. OCC has popped into town, and what should she come back with but this fantastic canvas? I'm not quite sure where we're going to put it yet, mind you. That's a good job it came in the pickup, wouldn't it? Because this wouldn't have fitted in the MX5 or the MGB or the 4CV. That seems kind of appropriate to have a... What sort of age is that then? Late 30s, something like that? But what a great old canvas that is. Turned up in a charity shop, that did. So a great find. That'll be going into the house. We've just got to carefully secure it so it doesn't take off while we drive back home, but we should be alright. We've got a few blankets and things and a couple of chairs to weigh it down. But yeah, what a great find that is. I washed this before we set off this morning, but it's already pretty filthy, but not to worry. What a stunning little imp we've got over here. Great car, I love the colour and the interior. I'm guessing the seats are out of something else, but they're a great colour match. This caddy wears its years on its sleeve. Practical little thing though, isn't it? What a useful little truck that is. Clearly we've had a bit of wheel arch attention on this one just to keep it going. Yes,
I guess if you're going to start sort of spraying prime, you might as well do it everywhere.
Yeah.
a bit fatter. Put it on.
So this cracking little Riley is the only car here flying the flag for pre-war cars. So I think it deserves another quick walk around just because of that. What a little cracker that is. One or two people are starting to disappear now. But it is approaching lunchtime and this is just a morning meet, so I guess that makes sense. And a few people have travelled quite a long distance just to get here, so I guess it makes sense that people are starting to drift away. But what a Bobby Dazzler this is. I'm guessing that the horn is a later fitment because it kind of blocks your route through for the starter handle hole. I guess the assumption is that you don't need a starting handle when you've got a lovely old Riley.
Electronic ignition.
What a lovely old Jack. Well, I think lunchtime is drawing closer, so we'll grab a sandwich and I think we'll probably think about disappearing ourselves. Many of the cars have gone now. This Granada was one of the first cars to be here. But yeah, I think we will start staggering back homewards once we've had a quick bite to eat. And it's been a really good meet. Lots of interesting old cars, some cars we haven't seen before, including that fantastic Citron Amy 8. What a beauty that is. Well, that's one successful mission completed. The little Dodge has redeemed itself after its slight faux pas when we tried to go to Hopley House, but no, it ran sweet as a nut today. Didn't miss a beat in traffic and everything. It's probably the longest or fiddliest trip we've done in it through the centre of Crewe. So that's a good test for the cooling system, sat in traffic waiting for people to make their minds up, turning in front of us, that kind of thing, roadworks, many traffic lights, roundabouts and so on. So that was all quite a good test actually of this old 1940s truck. It was the only commercial vehicle there. There used to be quite a good turnout of American pickups, but I think they probably tend to go somewhere else now. But despite that, there was loads of interesting cars there today at Crewe Heritage Centre, which was really good to see. And it was lovely to get this out. This is a first proper meet we've taken it to. We've taken the 4CV out a couple of times, and the Anglia's been out before, but not this one. So that was really nice, and the weather stayed good. It's a cracking day. It's about lunchtime now, so we'll be able to get it away long before the much anticipated heavy rain that's due later in the day arrives. But the good thing is we had a great day out in the old Dodge truck. Anyway, I think we will probably wrap up this video for now. Thank you very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you think about some of these things. Is there anything at the show that really took your eye, that caught your attention? Probably the best thing is that big canvas print that we put in the back here and way down with all this clobber is actually still there. We had visions of it disappearing on the way back. We came the back way through the lanes rather than on the main road, but that's all still there. Nice old wooden seats. We bought those at Hopley House actually. Mrs. OCC spotted those in one of the little businesses that are based there at Hopley House Farm Shop. My youthful assistant is just helping tidy things up. There's the jump leads and the spare 6-watt battery that we took just in case, which is fortunate. Yes. And my phone's in there as well, so just watch it. So yeah, anyway. It appears to have survived the ordeal of its drive home in a very appropriate little pickup truck. So what could have been more appropriate for a picture like that? Well, on the back behind the cab. Yeah. What a cracker that is.
That's quite good, isn't it?
Yeah. Handy things, these old pickup trucks. And youthful assistants, they're very handy as well. Right, well, we've got the little Dodge back in the garage, but as we were backing it in, it cut out. It won't start again. So, in fact, what happens if you give it a couple of presses on the accelerator pedal, that operates an accelerator pump in the carburettor, and it just puts a little squirt of fuel directly down into the carb, and it starts and kicks up on that for a brief moment, but it doesn't appear to be pulling any fuel through properly. So it'll run when you give it a jab of pot throttle, but not for any length of time. So I think it must have pulled up a bit of muck from somewhere. Where it's coming from I don't know, because it's got a newly made fuel tank on it, 2 filters before you get to the carburettor even, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But I'll whiz the top of the carburettor off and have another look in that main jet again. But yeah, anyway, at least we got back safe and sound. That was the main thing.